How to install a Pilar waterfall kitchen faucet featuring Touch 2.0 technology. The goal of this video is to walk you through installing your 3-hole kitchen faucet featuring Touch 2.0 technology. We will be using the faucet design shown here, although your faucet may look different since designs and finishes will vary. As with any faucet installation, check to make sure everything is in the box using the Quick Start Guide or the Maintenance and Installation Guide for reference. Before you begin, you'll want to assemble the tools you'll need for the job, like 2 adjustable wrenches, a Phillips head screwdriver, safety goggles, and you may want to have a flashlight handy to help you see under the sink. You may also need silicone if the surface of your counter or sink is uneven. The first step is installing the spout. The instructions for this step vary depending upon whether you have a top mount or under mount sink. A top mount sink has a rim around the sink and has been set in on top of the counter. The mounting for an under-mount sink is not visible from above the counter and does not have a rim around the sink. This video visually shows the under-mount installation with a brief description of what changes for top-mount sinks. Now, let's get started. For this step, you will need packet 1, the isolation plate, and the spout from the box. You will also need your Phillips screwdriver. Open packet 1 and remove the black LED base and the white gasket. Insert the gasket into the groove and press so that it seats or fits snugly all the way around. Then start the screws into the mounting nut. Set aside for the moment. Slide the base and gasket over the supply lines and position in place at the base of the spout. Now feed the supply lines through the sink, making sure that the F indicator on the front of the spout shank is facing forward. If the surface of the sink is rough or uneven, use a little silicone on the gasket to help seal gaps. Moving below the sink, next slide the spout insulator over the mounting shank, making sure that the lip of the insulator is properly seated in the mounting hole. The insulator keeps the spout shank from contacting the metal sink, which could cause your faucet to activate erratically. Secure the spout in place with the isolation spacer number 2 followed by the washer and mounting nut. Hand tighten the nut onto the shank. Lastly, tighten the jack screws with the Phillips screwdriver, taking care not to over-tighten. Now, if you are installing on a top-mount sink, instead of using the insulator, you will secure the spout with the isolation spacer number 1 or the thicker isolation spacer number 6 if you have a thicker sink. Next, we'll install the valve. For this step, you will need packet 2 from the box, plus the faucet valve, solenoid valve, and hose. Start by sliding the white gasket up over the supply lines and into the groove in the base of the valve assembly. With the handle in the off position, pointing forward toward the sink, feed the supply lines and wires through the hole in the sink. Center the assembly in the hole with the LED lens facing forward. Again, if the sink surface is rough or uneven, just apply silicone to the gasket to fill in any gaps. Below the sink, use the mounting bracket to secure the valve assembly to the sink, placing the nut within the special wrench thread onto the rod. Tighten the nut securely to the sink. If necessary, you can add the spacer before the nut. Now we'll put the solenoid into place. Below the deck, slide the solenoid assembly up onto the valve outlet tube. When it's on completely, attach the metal retaining clip through the thin slots on top of the solenoid inlet. It is important that the clip is secured in the right position. It should not be installed upside down. Make sure it is positioned in the grooves on the top of the solenoid. Pull down to test that the connection is secure. Slide the hose assembly onto the solenoid assembly outlet. Install the clip over the hose and assembly outlet to lock the connection in place. Make sure the connection is tight. With the outlet tube nipple in place on the other end of the hose, place the hose into the diverter port. Snap the blue clip over the port nipple connection to lock it into place. Again, make sure the connection is tight. Step 3 is installing the side spray. If you are not installing a side spray, you may proceed to Step 4. For this step, you will need packet 3 from the box plus the side sprayer. Set aside the battery box and batteries. Place the trim ring over the spray support, and then place them into the outer hole on the sink. Below deck, secure by tightening the nut by hand. Insert the sprayer and hose down through the support assembly. Below deck, at the diverter connection, undo the blue clip and remove the diverter plug. Now, insert the end of the diverter hose from the side sprayer into the diverter housing until it's secure. Put the clip back in place and push until it snaps. Pull to test that the connection is secure. The next step is to make the wiring connections. For this step, you will need the battery box and batteries that you set aside from packet 3. To begin, you need to make sure that you have dissipated any static charge by touching the cold stop or another ground. Remove the protective plastic cap from the LED wire that is hanging from the valve assembly. Plug the LED wire into the port on the solenoid assembly. First, attach the black wire from the solenoid assembly to the black wire from the spout shank. Second, attach the orange wire from the solenoid assembly to the orange wire from the spout shank. Remove the backing from the wire housing clip and adhere to the interior cabinet wall near the solenoid. Feed only the orange LED wire through the clip. All electrical connections must be made before you load the batteries. With 6 AA batteries in place within the pack, connect the wire from the solenoid to the top of the battery pack. Place the battery pack flat on the cabinet floor at least 2 inches from the cabinet walls and other objects. If your battery pack doesn't reach the floor, you can set it on a non-metallic object at least 2 inches from the cabinet walls. Make sure wires are not twisted or touching one another. Now you will need to connect the water lines. For this step, you will use packet 4 from the box. You will also need 2 adjustable wrenches. Remove the check valves and ferrules from the bag. You'll need to install these onto the supply stops. If ferrules and nuts are already present on your stops, you must remove them. The check valves and ferrules provided with your faucet are essential for the faucet to operate properly. Starting with the cold water line, insert the ferrule into the cold water stop. Screw on the check valve by hand tightening. Then take the adjustable wrench and make one full turn to finish tightening the check valve into place. It is very important not to over-tighten the check valve. Now, do the same for the hot water stop. Look at the ends of the hot and cold water lines and check to make sure all fittings and end connections are free of debris. Attach the cold water line, blue, to the cold check valve. Hand tighten the nut to a snug position, then give it another full turn with a wrench. You'll want to hold the nut in place on the check valve while you are tightening the nut from the supply line. Do the same for the other stop. When installing the water lines, you may need to loop any extra length as shown. Delta Faucet Company strongly recommends against cutting the supply lines, as doing so introduces a potential leak point. If your project requires cut lines, see the Maintenance and Installation Guide for custom fit connection instructions. Make sure you hold the nut in place on the check valve while you are tightening the nut from the supply line. Do not use pipe dope or other sealants on water line connections. It's time to flush the lines. First, turn on both hot and cold water supplies. Use the tool provided to remove the aerator from the spout. This will allow any debris in the lines to pass through the faucet without clogging the aerator. Put the handle in the full on mixed position. Then flush water lines for about 1 minute. Check under the sink to make sure there is nothing that will interfere with the electrical connections. Then check the connections to the solenoid and the connections at the stops for any leaks. Re-tighten if necessary, but don't over-tighten. Once the lines have been flushed, replace the aerator. It's time to test the faucet. Use the handle to turn the faucet on, and then tap the spout to turn it off and on electronically. You will need to use a deliberate touch like playing a piano. Touching too fast or too slow will not produce the desired results. Grasp and rotate the spout. Touch 2.0 technology is smart enough to know the difference between a grasp and a touch, and will not change the function of the water when you grasp the spout to move it. Test the side spray. With proper installation, your kitchen faucet with Touch 2.0 technology will bring years of stylish, efficient, trouble-free water delivery. If you experience any difficulty, please call 1-800-345-DELTA for assistance, or visit deltafaucet.com/touch for more information on your faucet. Delta Touch 2.0 technology. Another way Delta is more than just a faucet. See what Delta can do.